Once again, I'm Scott Dixon for You Can't Handle the Truth 24/7. This is another presentation on our basic concepts of FIVR. And if you like what we're doing, please tell your friends and subscribe to our channel. So last time we had talked about our basic, what we called a static setup. This time we've changed that into a dynamic setup. And the goal here is to hold two of our variables constant. And the two variables will always come from this area. This is our given. These are the ones that we're actually manipulating because we're assuming we're doing what we can for our recovery. So on this first line, those would be the ones being held constant. Second line, third line, you have an idea now. So what that means is if I were training 4 days a week or training my body parts 2 times a week, that frequency would stay the same. With my intensity in this case, I would be, say, taking a load that I know I can do, say something like 80% of my max, and then I would be weighting the volume from more to less or less to more, depending on which direction we wanted to do. So how might this work? You start off with, say, 80% of your max. You're doing 3 sets of 10 one week, 4 sets of 10 one week, the next week, 5 sets of 10 the third week. That would be a way you would weigh volume while keeping the other variables the same. Now, there's no doubt that increases the intensity, but with the intensity here, especially as you get near the end of your sets, you become more and more fatigued. Nevertheless, with intensity, we're mainly just talking about the weight you're using. On this, our next line, we hold our intensity and our volume the same while increasing or decreasing our frequency. Now this is a line that most people never try. I've had great success with people doing it. But this is truly a wave. It's not typically a linear progression like we talked about with this. So you have somebody train their body parts 3 times one week, 2 times the next, 3 times one week, 2 times the next, then maybe have them cut back to 1 time a week and then go back up to 2. That would be a way that you would wave frequency. Now, the other kind of idea built around this notion of frequency, you don't really have to do things based on 7 days. So if you took a month and you were doing 10-day cycles, it'd be much easier to kind of plan out waves of frequency with that over a broader period of time, because 7 days isn't always enough. Our last line down here is one where we increase and decrease our intensity while keeping our frequency and our volume roughly the same. So take the previous case where we were doing 3 sets of 10, and here we might add weight and start doing 3 sets of 8, then 3 sets of 6, something like that. Now, the problem with this is to keep the volume the same, typically you have to do what? You've got to add sets. So if you're doing 3 sets of 10 to start with, as we started up here, 3 sets of 10, then by the 3rd week, that's 30 reps. We'd have to be doing 5 sets of 6 reps or 6 sets of 5 reps to keep our volume the same. Frequency would stay the same. Most likely you'd be training 2 days a week, or your body parts, or your split would be set up to be training your lifts twice a week. It could be a single time a week though if you're a power lifter. But this then, as it is, because it's dynamic and we're manipulating one variable, this introduces a lot of variety for you. Most people, once again, don't think about this, but you could literally take the same program and run it 3 different ways. And program, I mean by a kind of particular split that you like. You could just vary the various elements of it. And I could show you how to do that in the future. But the long story short here is that a basic program introducing one dynamic variable gives you multiple options. And this is where, when you start experimenting, you will find that some of those work better than others. And I did this one in terms of lowering the reps, but I'm assuming during that time, just to be clear, that you're also increasing the weight of the exercises. Now, where else this could be dynamic too is that you would only maybe do those increases and decreases on one lift. You don't have to do them, or one body part, however you want to work it out. So imagine you had the bench press. You only did it on the bench press, and the rest you held maybe static. You did the previous one where all you were concerned about is keeping a certain amount of volume. And when you start thinking kind of holistically in terms of the ways that you can manipulate your training, what you'll come to understand is that simple approaches can manifest and turn into more complex ones with just simple changes. And that's the variation that you want to start thinking about. Not wholesale changing things, but start tinkering with things. So imagine you're on this first line and you were increasing and decreasing your volume, and you said, you know what, going 310, 410, and 510 was a little bit too much. So next time let's go 3-8, 4-8, 5-8. And that decrease in the number of reps may keep your recovery more intact. Those simple adjustments can keep you growing over time. And you don't really see this kind of thing talked about a whole lot because I don't think people have really thought it through very well. They kind of just do what they were told to do, or they train, and I think that's just a principle in general that people hold. You train typically like, if you train with a group of people, you train like they train. Or what authors you like, you train like they tell you to train. But understand that's not always the best for you. I'm not telling you or prescribing any best particular way to train. You can see that. I'm giving you the setup to determine what's best for you. So I'll end today then on this notion of a basic dynamic setup is when you hold the two variables constant, which are your equal signs. Once again, we don't consider recovery the variable at this point because we're doing what we can for that. And we hold the dynamic one to be the one that changes over time.